The following program is the work of the broadcast students at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. BCIT Magazine features news stories from around the Lower Mainland which were produced over the last week. Responsibility for the content of the show rests completely with the students and their instructors.
This week on BCIT Magazine.
The controversial Kinder Morgan pipeline gets the Prime Minister's thumbs up.
Evergreen means go for the Tri-Cities new SkyTrain expansion.
And downtown Eastside activists are taking Vancouver's drug problem head on.
Hello and welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Matt Humphrey.
And I'm Steve Zhang.
The Canadian federal government has approved the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion, which will run through Burnaby. With more, here's Tyler Bennett.
Has approved the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Expansion Project.
The controversial Trans Mountain Pipeline Expansion Project has officially been green-lit by the Canadian government. The $6.8 billion project that spans 1,150 kilometers between Edmonton and Burnaby will transport a mix of oil products off the BC coast and export it to Asian markets. The decision has not come without its critics, as Wilderness Committee climate campaigner Peter McCartney is not pleased with the decision.
The decision yesterday came through like a punch in the gut. We're absolutely furious that Justin Trudeau would approve this pipeline over the clear wishes of the West Coast communities that have stood up again and again against it.
Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson sent out a release shortly after the decision, saying he was profoundly disappointed and that the pipeline is not worth the environmental risks. BCIT mining student Lamia Wardak believes there are benefits to the pipeline for the province.
People who go into the oil industry, they will probably get more jobs and more wages and stuff. It's a wonderful project so that they can finish. But economically, how people are like criticizing and stuff, I think it's not necessary at all.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says that the Trans Mountain Pipeline will create jobs for 15,000 middle-class workers, but McCartney doesn't believe that's true.
Those jobs numbers are ridiculous. This will only create 50 permanent jobs in British Columbia, and it puts 100,000 jobs at risk.
And with protests already ramping up again, McCartney believes this fight is far from over.
There are already thousands of people that have said that they are willing to step up and do whatever it takes to stop this thing.
Kinder Morgan must meet or exceed the 157 conditions set out by the National Energy Board, and if the project meets requirements, construction isn't speculated to begin until 2019. Tyler Bennett in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
Our reporter Tyler Bennett now joins us live. Tyler, amidst the backlash, how has Kinder Morgan reacted to the announcement?
Well, Matt, it's actually been very positive. Kinder Morgan Canada President Ian Anderson has said that this is a pivotal moment for Canada's energy industry, and he believes that Kinder Morgan can operate and run the pipeline safely and hopes the public will accept the approval and the law.
And what does the approval mean for tanker traffic off the coast of Metro Vancouver?
Well, once construction is complete, it is speculated that traffic will go from 5 tankers to 34. Now, that's a 7 times increase, so that definitely has environmentalists concerned moving forward. Back to you.
Thanks, Tyler. We're now joined by economist Kevin Wainwright. So, Kevin, tell us, how will this approval affect the British Columbian economy?
Well, in the short run, there'll be a clear boost to the economy just in the construction phase of the Kinder Morgan pipeline. We expect to see thousands of new jobs being created and billions of dollars being injected into the economy over the next several years. And in the long run, combination of the work along the pipeline, the increased productivity that's coming through the port should lead to a significant increase in number of jobs and therefore stimulus to the BC economy.
Would there have been any cleaner energy industries that would have provided the same boost to BC's economy at all?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about the use of liquid natural gas, as well as looking at wind power and such. Unfortunately, what we've seen in the last several years, especially because of the Middle East and Afghan crisis, is that world oil prices have plummeted. most of which has made many of the alternative energy plans uneconomical for corporations at this time. So one of the challenges to getting the society to shift from, say, using gas and oil to something more environmentally friendly is the cost. And unfortunately, it's very difficult when the prices of fuel are this low. If we could see fuel prices rise, or crude oil rise back to over $100 a barrel like it was several years ago, you would see a dramatic uptake in the use of the alternative energy sources.
So, you said that it would create a lot of construction jobs. What about after the construction is done?
Well, once the pipeline's in place, there will be a significant increase in the flow of oil into the port, which will automatically increase the number of jobs and activity around the port and the indirect effects.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. A Vancouver resident wants to reward cyclists for taking a greener approach to transportation. Nick Arthur has more on the recent launch of a new biking app.
This avid rider is rewarding Vancouver cyclists.
35% off for 55 bike rides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Molly Miller is the manager of the Vancouver Biko app, which launched just a few months ago. She hopes to reward Vancouverites who choose to swap out 4 tires for 2 tires.
Biko is an app, free to download, that rewards people for biking around their city. And when Biko came to Vancouver about 3 months ago, I was so impressed with the innovation and the inspiration that it brings to urban cycling.
Miller says Biko is currently in the works of a partnership with the bike sharing service Mobi.
The Biko app doesn't reward just Mobi users. It also rewards regular riders, and riders can claim their Biko points at local restaurants.
Biko users log into the app before they start their trip. The app then maps out your travel and you receive 1 Biko point for every 1 kilometer traveled. The app also determines your average speed and the amount of CO2 emissions you saved in the trip. Adrian Carr believes Biko is a positive step towards Vancouver's ultimate green goal.
Anything we can do to encourage people to change their behavior and to be greener in their behaviors, the more we as a city can support the alternatives, and the more that there are apps available for people to log on to and actually also incentivize their behavior. If they're going to get some little goodies for taking a bike more, that's great.
Biko has over 88,000 users globally who have logged over 1.1 million kilometers, and the app has over 6,000 users in Vancouver.
We will also be opening up across the U.S. So we're launching in San Diego, LA, Austin, Seattle, Portland, and Victoria, BC.
The West Coast Biko expansion will begin in March 2017. Nick Arthur in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
After much planning, SkyTrain service has finally made its way into the Tri-City area. And as Johnny Smart reports, the new Evergreen line comes with much optimism.
After years of anticipation, the Evergreen SkyTrain line that connects the Tri-Cities to downtown Vancouver is finally operational. The line connects Coquitlam Centre to Port Moody and Lougheed Centre in less than 15 minutes. The 11-kilometer line, which has been under construction since 2012, was projected to be open in mid-2016, but was postponed a number of times. The city of Coquitlam is excited for the economic value that the link will provide.
We're trying to encourage a mixed use around the stations, so office space, residential space, commercial space, so that we have try to create more dynamic areas around the stations.
Not only will the line prompt development, but the neighboring city of Port Moody will see facilitated travel in and out of the area.
People will be able to move around far more easily, so people from Port Moody are going to be able to go places quicker, faster, cheaper, more environmentally friendly. So I think both for commuters and for just social entertainment purposes, I think it's really going to open that up.
The new transportation system will have signs alerting passengers of changes, and traffic will be monitored as people adjust to the route. The $1.4 billion extension is estimated to eventually carry 70,000 people between the cities. Johnny Smart in Coquitlam for BCIT Magazine.
Coming up on BCIT Magazine,
winter warmth is extended to Vancouver's homeless population.
And football can leave its mark on players even after the final whistle.
I chose BCIT because I know that all the programs are very hands-on. We have our own radio station. Like it's one of the best programs that I've ever heard of.
I am starting a job on Monday, so confidence is high.
Honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this fun.
A defining moment for me was when I finished my first internship and got lots of really great feedback from industry professionals.
I would have never imagined I'd be walking into the floors of TSN and thinking, I'm not a student anymore, I'm here to work.
I will be starting a job with an investigative news program in Toronto, and I'm really excited to see that grow into what will become, hopefully, my dream job.
BCIT Broadcast and Online Journalism, putting you to work.
Welcome back to BCIT Magazine. As Vancouver's drug epidemic continues to grow, Louisa Alvarez reports on how activists are attempting to save lives without government help.
This is unfortunately a common sight to see in the downtown east side, where drug addiction has a tight grip on many of its residents. This year alone, there have been more than 600 overdose-related deaths. Fentanyl, an opiate 100 times stronger than heroin, lies at the heart of this crisis.
It's so deadly and so quick. I'm telling you, it instantly dropped me.
Without an end in sight, activists and volunteers are stepping up in an effort to lower the death toll with this unsanctioned safe injection site. Here, users are provided with clean needles and immediate help as each worker carries naloxone to reverse the effects of a fentanyl overdose.
And each overdose must have 6 to 10 personnel involved with a loud screaming siren, and I think we can do better. So it's hard to know what's going to happen next, but they haven't shut us down.
Although this pop-up safe site is a step in the right direction, some feel it just isn't enough, as more than 100 users have come in the last 3 hours.
Ideally, we would have more supervised injection site inside, but we need political will for that, and we need people to move for that. And so right now, I think it's the best we can do.
Mudd is a resident of the downtown east side, and he says safe injection sites are vital in order to survive.
The numbers now are shocking people. Man, without these safe injection sites, the numbers are going to be mind-blowing, mind-blowing.
The site relies on donations from their GoFundMe page, and as long as funds are there, their doors will stay open. Louisa Alvarez in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
As temperatures plummet with winter drawing near, many are left in the cold. Robin Crawford has more on a local foundation's effort to warm up the homeless.
Fleece blanket, a pair of winter socks.
It's something many people take for granted.
A pair of gloves, and a toque.
And as winter creeps closer, something that's necessary for those who need it most. Martin Brillante saw people sleeping in the cold in his hometown and decided he had to do something about it.
We're going to be supplying the homeless of Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows with winter warm-up packages, we call them. And they each contain a blanket, pair of gloves, pair of socks, and a toque. And that's just the essentials to keep the homeless warm throughout the winter.
His NGO, the Brillante Foundation, aims to give out 50 packages this winter. Warm-up packages will be handed out to shelters across Maple Ridge, but in the next few years, the Brillante Foundation plans to expand across Metro Vancouver. Local shelters believe warmth can be the difference between life and death.
If it goes below freezing and they're not in a warm place, they can very easily die, unfortunately. Especially when you combine the rain and the snow with the cold. When somebody gets wet and cold, that's the worst situation.
Daryl says there are at least 100 homeless people in Maple Ridge. He blames cost of living for the amount of people sleeping on the streets.
That rent is too high. The cost of living, how much housing is just really out of whack.
The foundation will be holding a pub night on December 10th to raise money for the packages that cost $10 to make. You can find out more about the event at brillantefoundation.org.
And although this is not going to get them off the streets, it just shows them that someone cares.
Thanks very much.
And for some, it may be the most important Christmas present this year. Robin Crawford in Maple Ridge for BCIT Magazine.
Football is a high-impact game, but what happens after the damage is done? Jacob Hall reports on a former player who's trying to create a safe space for athletes.
Today is a good day for Johnny Dyer, but that often isn't the case. After years of football, Dyer believes that he is suffering from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE.
I look back at it now and I kind of feel like I've felt the effects maybe a while ago, but I just didn't know what it was.
CTE is a progressive degenerative disease found in people who have had severe blows or repeated blows to the head. A Boston University study in 2015 found that 95% of NFL player brains they researched had the condition. Despite this, the NFL doesn't acknowledge the link between the two, and neither does the CFL. Jeffrey Orridge, the CFL commissioner, recently said that the league's position is that there is no conclusive evidence at this point. While the CFL commissioner doesn't see a link between CTE and football, youth football coaches are adapting around the country to the growing concern from parents.
We're more aware of the symptoms, the signs of concussions, and all coaches are now involved in heavy education about concussions and how to deal with them. We always tell the kids, get your helmet right to the ball, right to the chest, perhaps even right to the head. What we've done now with safe contact is the head is completely out of the equation when tackles are made.
While Johnny is encouraged by changing attitudes, he believes that players who have suffered need support, which is part of the reason why he penned an open letter in his blog detailing his problems. He has been encouraged by the response.
Hope that I'm creating a safe space as a person for people to come and talk to me about it, and I can help them and tell them how I'm getting through it and how I'm dealing with it.
Dyer believes that awareness is the first step in understanding and finding solutions to a very complicated and at times contentious issue that might affect young athletes. Jacob Hall in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
We're now joined by our reporter, Jacob Hall. Jacob, what has the reaction been like after Commissioner Orridge's comments regarding CTE and football?
Well, the reaction actually, Steve, has been quite negative. The CFLPA has come out this week saying they're disappointed with the commissioner's comments, and CFL.ca has actually taken that portion of the video completely off their website.
Now, this seems very similar to issues in the NFL. How are these situations comparable?
Well, the NFL settled a lawsuit with former players for about $1 billion, and the CFL can't afford a settlement of that magnitude, so they're going to try and distance themselves completely away from CTE or any other brain injury. Back to you.
Coming up on BCIT Magazine,
Vancouver drivers are swerving to avoid a new traffic scam.
BCIT students find themselves balancing their pocketbooks with their textbooks.
And playful pooches help ease the pressures of exam season.
The most rewarding thing for me has been the relationships I developed in the program, both with instructors and classmates.
My sense of confidence has never been higher. I mean, this program's offered great opportunities to be in real world, real industry situations, and being in those moments and knowing I can contribute, I can do this.
It's exciting to be in this industry and to meet lots of great people and to make amazing friends.
BCIT Broadcast and Online Journalism, realizing your potential.
Standby graphics, ready camera one.
If you want to experience the fast-paced world of news,
today on BCIT Magazine, striking,
make magic on a movie set,
frame,
and action, or bring your creative ideas to life, BCIT's hands-on training will get you started. BCIT Television and Video Production. Your possibilities start here.
If you're Jones and Ford Jazz in need of fixin', hit up the Christmas concert at the Dixon.
Now if soul music is more your speed, the City Soul Choir has what you need.
If it's December 2 and you got nothing to do, Amy Schumer has some laughs for you.
Make sure your kids are binoculars so they can come check out Burnaby's birds.
It's your last chance to see Big PDM. Have you heard? Say what? He's retiring.
Drivers beware. BC's Better Business Bureau has issued a scam warning to Vancouverites. Jason Croker has more.
Financial information or just all your...
Another online scam has surfaced in the city of Vancouver.
Yeah, we've started receiving some calls from the public. ICBC and the Vancouver Police have also received calls that people are getting these spam emails that indicate you have received a traffic ticket for what they're calling negligent driving.
The email we've been seeing, you can see there's really nothing descriptive in terms of official...
The emails being received say there is picture proof of an individual driving with negligence and that money must be sent through email. Kelly relayed that money for tickets should never be sent to random email accounts.
Hotmail account, so we know that's not official at all.
According to ICBC and the Vancouver Police, they would never ever issue tickets this way. If you're going to be getting a driving infraction, typically you're going to be in your car and stopped or pulled over. And they certainly don't request payment in this fashion either.
Some students believe the appearance of the email would determine whether they would send money.
I've fallen into scams before. I'd probably look into the whole message, and if I thought it was kind of shady, I'd just discard it, throw it in the trash.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to think about whether or not it was looking official enough, I suppose. But I could see people maybe of an older generation getting fooled by that. I think I'm pretty careful with that kind of thing, though. Yeah.
That's something for you to follow.
But claims of pictures of their so-called infractions might tempt them to click on the harmful link.
I think I'd be so curious to see the actual photos of my car that I probably would fall for that trick, yeah.
Potentially, depending on how the email actually looked. I have been emailed by the IRS before, and I almost fell into that one. So, I don't know, potentially, maybe.
Unsafe.
The BBB insists that any links sent through scam messages such as these could be extremely harmful, meaning there is only one action to take.
So just make sure when you see this email, delete forever.
Jason Croker in Vancouver for BCIT Magazine.
Canadian students no longer have a 6-month grace period to start repaying their student loans after graduation. My co-anchor Matt Humphrey has more.
For students like these, taking public transit is one way to cut costs in the expensive Lower Mainland. Luckily, now students are getting a financial break from the federal government. Now student loans don't have to be paid back until borrowers make $25,000 a year. Government numbers say more than 750,000 Canadians have a student loan, and of those, about 234,000 will be benefited by the new policy. The changes give students much needed breathing room after they graduate. However, due to the high cost of living in Metro Vancouver, many students are still strapped for cash. Students balance a full-time course load with a part-time job, making little purchases to get them throughout the day.
Thank you.
When it's time to pay tuition, however, there's often little left, making student debt a big issue.
Most people are living paycheck to paycheck in Vancouver, so I feel like $3,300 is not nearly enough. So yeah, I think that the $25,000 rule is good. If I earn more than 40 or 50, that will be a much more easier to pay back my student loan.
Knowing how tricky it can be, the Health and Wellness Department of BCIT is including a financial planning seminar as part of their Wellness Week.
I know how stressful it can be trying to balance out your education at the same time as finances. A lot of students here are pulling part-time jobs, which is really difficult when you're going to BCIT. And they're already worrying so much about their career and getting a job, and I think the last thing that they need to worry about is finances and that financial stress.
While the financial situation of Canadian students has improved, for those living here in Greater Vancouver, affordable options remain a must. Matt Humphrey in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine. Well, as the semester winds down and deadlines pile up, BCIT's Health and Wellness program enlisted the services of some cuddly canines to help students relieve stress. Johnny Smart reports.
Everyone's favorite furry friends return to BCIT this week.
There's some water bowls here.
It's Wellness Week, and students are invited to take a break from their studies to cuddle with some adorable pups.
In this moment when there's like all these dogs around, I'm like, I am not thinking about anything for the next week.
With final exams quickly approaching, many students turn to the pooches to take their mind off things.
It's great to see this is like becoming a thing in more post-secondary institutions.
A former university student volunteered her time because she saw the benefits to dog therapy and remembered the stress of school.
I would have loved to have something like this when I was in school, and they didn't really have that. I find that anything that kind of lightens people's moods and de-stresses them, and I think animals definitely do that. So I think it's a really good cause.
This time around, the canines all came from a dog walking group whose owners were happy to loan them to the event for a couple of hours.
I chose the ones that I thought would really be able to handle a lot of people and handle, it can be a bit of a stressful, intense environment. So I wanted to make sure that they'd be comfortable and making sure that they handle touch okay, as well to handling noise and people too.
For this group of dogs, it was their first time participating in a doggy de-stress, but judging from their popularity, it won't be their last. Johnny Smart in Burnaby for BCIT Magazine.
Netflix has announced some new user-friendly changes. The streaming service has made its movies available for offline viewing when an internet connection is unavailable.
Meanwhile, Universal Studios is bringing Nintendo characters to life with newly announced interactive environments. They'll feature popular characters in amusement parks across the world and are also in talks for feature-length movies.
If you have any questions regarding the show, you can contact us at bcit-broadcast.com or bcitbroadcastnews.ca. For watching BCIT Magazine, I'm Steve Zhang.
And I'm Matt Humphrey. We now leave you with a picturesque reminder of Vancouver's record-breaking rainfall.